Welcome to Revolution 2020, the digital event. I'm Lisa Martin, technology correspondent, and I'm really excited to be joined by the CEO of MemSQL, Raj Verma. Raj, welcome to your event. You've got some big, exciting news to share with the MemSQL community and the data community at large. What's going on?
Lisa, good to see you, and good to see you safe and well. And it's a really exciting day for us here at our small company, MemSQL, and we are rebirthing ourselves as SingleStore. So I'd give you that right up front. MemSQL is a name that the founders came up with when they started with the intent that the entire price of memory is going to plummet and everything, and all the data would reside in memory, and give speed and scale to our customers. And I think the only thing that didn't quite happen was the prices of memory didn't really go down as fast as was expected. Like most startups, we pivoted and are so much more than an in-memory database. And I think with the name MSQL, we signified to our customers that we were an in-memory SQL database because we were MemSQL. And over time, we had become so much more than an in-memory SQL database. If, in fact, we are not an in-memory database, we are probably memory-first database. We are both row and columnar. And, if it was only an in-memory database, we'd probably be 10% of our size, if that. And so we wanted to be sure that we communicated with our name as to what we could do for our customer and how we are a general purpose database that can solve a variety of data needs and requirements for our customers, how to take the complexity and cost of data management out of their data strategy and help them adapt, embrace, and accelerate their data strategy in a flexible, hybrid, multi-cloud environment. So that's really the reason why we came up with the name SingleStore. I must confess that rebranding is not something that you wake up one morning and decide to do. It is a tier one decision. It is a CEO level project management decision. It has taken a vast majority of my weekly schedule to get things to where they are. I was blessed to have an amazing team at MemSQL and at our partners, Newkind and Bospar, who helped us with it. And for us, it was very, very important that this meant something to us. And as I said, signified something to the customer. And I'll tell you a little story. What it meant to us was as we pivoted from being just a row store into a row and a columnar store, the engineers got together over lunch and they said, well, why don't we actually have a function where the developer doesn't have to decide whether they put their data in row or column, and we should call that feature something. And the engineers got together and wore their marketing hats, and one of them came up with diagonal store. And they were like, no, it doesn't seem quite right calling it diagonal store. And then one genius came up and said, call it single store. And so that functionality is something that we've called single store for a while now, and it's a very unique functionality. It takes away a lot of complexity from our product and adds a lot of simplicity to our product offering. And it's a very, very unique differentiator for us. So single store doesn't only signify what we can do for our customers, what is the power of the technology, but it's also something which means something to our engineering team, and it's developed in-house. That is something that was important. So couldn't be happier to name it SingleStore. Yes, very, very pleased, momentous day for us. And I'd like to thank all the customers who have gotten us here and all our partners and, of course, all our employees and well-wishers. So thank you.
And I know how important culture is to you, Raj, as a leader and at SingleStore. And I'm sure the engineers love that they actually had a name and doing some marketing and the actual, as you said, huge project of rebranding an entire business. Let's dig into SingleStore, unpack some of the lens that you were looking through and what, from a customer perspective, you're expecting the reception to be?
Yeah, no, great question. And yes, culture is extremely important to me. I think it is the most important element of our business. As one wise man said, culture is what helps people make decisions when you're not in the room. And you're not in the room majority of the time when major decisions are being made. And so, yes, extremely important. Coming back to the other question of single store and what it actually means and the infinite possibility that it introduces. um, Mark Andreessen, I think over 10 years ago or 15 years ago, said that every company is now a software company. And he was right, because software was automating processes that were otherwise done manually, was making things a lot more accessible that were otherwise in, filing cabinets, etc. So automation was a big reason why, that statement was being made. I'd actually go and say that that statement has evolved over time. Every company now is a data company. And what that signifies really, at the if you peel the onion or double click on it, is the way forward is based not only on automation. Automation is table stakes, all right? Is on how quickly and how widely can you make your analytics accessible and shareable, right? Now, what that analytics does, it gives you a clear direction as to what your next step should be to keep a customer happy, to keep an employee happy, to, in certain cases, save a life, like we've seen in the recent times, or just make the world a better place, like we do with, companies like GoGuardian and Thorn, etc., which literally saves lives, and as I said, makes society better. So, the fact of managing your data being a luxury is no longer true. I think managing your data is determines how successful you will be, both in as a business and in society. And to do that, if you can remove complexity and cost of managing data, then you'd be very effective in doing that. Now, what adds complexity is multiple databases doing multiple workloads for you. That adds cost, that adds, data movement. Data has gravity, movement adds complexity and risk. And quite frankly, if I was the CEO of, Cigna or Walmart or Goldman or what have you, I don't lens my data as OLAP data, data warehouse data, OLTP data, streaming data. For me, data is data, and all I want to really do is gain insights into that data so I can take my next action, which is most aligned to my stakeholders. Now, we as technology vendors have done our level best to confuse the customer as much as we can by specializing and slicing and dicing workloads. All right. Ultimately, the winner in this data space, hopefully it's us, hopefully it's SingleStore, and if not, there'll be someone else who would take that complexity and cost out of data management, and these artificial definition or segmentation of workloads will get unified so that you can actually write one single SQL query to be able to access all your workloads across multiple data residencies. And I think that is where the world is going to. We are probably amongst the first to actually stake our claim to it. And let me be very honest here. I mean, we aren't there yet. We are, call it X% of our way there, but we've got the basic architecture and the technology to get there. We are majority of our way there. And there are certain edge cases that we probably never going to get to. But as long as we can manage majority of the workloads, do it well, take complexity and cost, and have a single pane of glass for our customers, I think that is what would be needed in the world going forward.
And you're right. Giving customers, well, anytime you can reduce complexity and cost in any walk of life, I'll take it. Make things simple, single pane of glass. You also talked about something spot on, that in the data management industry, there's been a proliferation of specialized systems. So customers have choice. There's pros and cons to that. It can be more complex. So as data is so, as you talked about, data has gravity, but it is absolutely, you're right. I agree with you. Every company is a data company, but if you can't get to your data, run analytics on it to glean insight now, data from yesterday might be too late. So what does a company need to really manage its data strategy?
Before I go into answering this, just a thought crossed my mind for all the viewers who are watching this and who might not have used our technology. Let me tell you how we can be helpful. In a very simple example, how many of you love the pinwheel that appears on your screen when you're refreshing your dashboard or your report? I'm sure you guys love it, don't you? When you have to wait for 15 seconds or 20 seconds, or in some cases, minutes as that report is refreshing itself. Or you go to a website and you ask for a report or you want to access information and it takes, seconds, minutes to load. That is just not something that is very suitable for better customer experience, right? And that's exactly what we help solve, right? We provide low latency insights into your data, and low latency by a factor of 10, 20, 40. We were built for low latency. When you're building a software product, it's very easy for latency to creep in multiple segments of your code. And if you are requiring sub-second response times, then there isn't a technology that can beat us. Just there's no if and buts about it, right? And the fact is, you might go on and say, well, how bad is it to wait for 2 seconds? Yeah, 2 seconds per report, and you got to access 20 reports. So that 40 seconds plus a customer asks you a question, which then again gives you another 20 reports to sift through. Suddenly, you have a caller waiting for a minute and a half to get your response, or a customer who is, in the moment of truth, trying to make a decision, making the wrong choice. That is the difference between you having a data-driven company that helps you adapt, embrace, and accelerate the insights versus watching data in rear view and hoping that your tomorrow would look exactly like your yesterday. That is the thing of the past, Lisa. And I continue to say that. I do think that the technologies of tomorrow will be your friend, will be someone that will be your caddy, the data caddy that helps you hit the right golf shot, rather than you having to, just make a guess, or because yesterday I hit the same iron, I can do it today. Well, the wind and the weather could be very different. And I think that's what we help our customers cope with better.
Why do you think, as the CEO of SingleStore, why do you think that your product is going to be the single store for your customers?
Because we were designed to be is really the simplest of answers. I think when we started building this database, we built it on first principles. We didn't put lipstick on a pig. And we essentially said that we are going to start with a database that is low latency, high concurrency, and has simple SQL, because the analytical language of this world is not going to be anything but SQL, no matter what the NoSQL movement or the others say. So we are SQL, we are low latency, we are high concurrency, we have a transactional layer which can marry real-time information with historical information, which is stored in a column store, so you can load data in the lowest storage location that you possibly can and access it very, very quickly. Our column store is among the fastest stores that you would have in the database industry. And that was one of the reasons that excited me the most about me coming in here about 16 months ago. It was one of the best kept secrets in terms of the power of the technology, the simplicity of using this technology and making it effective to everyone in the organization. I mean, how many information workers are there in a bank, and pick any bank, Wells Fargo, Citibank, Bank of America. How many of them actually use analytics? Thousands, tens of thousands. And imagine the productivity that is lost with your employees in the digital world, especially staring at a pinwheel, right? Waiting to be responsive to your customers. That is all down to the latency in your data layer. And that's what we help solve, Lisa.
The customer experience is even more critical in the climate that we're living in today. Our temperament is and our expectations are higher. We want things now, so that spinning pinwheel, as you said, nobody has time for that. That can be an actual brand reputation killer for a company. So being able to leverage the data as the new oil, as the currency, and deliver that superior customer experience, that's not only going to keep your customer a customer, but prevent them from going to a competitor. That's a big factor in determining the winners and the losers of tomorrow, right?
No, absolutely. I do think, Lisa, what I've learned in my 30 years in the information industry, I haven't met a customer who says, you know what, let's treat our customers badly, right? And I haven't, and I'm sure you haven't either. Everyone wants to treat their customers better. They can't with legacy technology. So they're very well intentioned. They actually think that staring at a pinwheel for 6 seconds or 15 seconds is the best technology can do. And that's just not true. And we are a proof of why it isn't true. And I do remember in the past, in days gone by, when we had those car phones, and they just had terrible reception, right? And we just got used to it because at least we had a phone in the car that we could, connect to people in case we got into trouble. Now, I think there is the customers have been sensitized to the fact that the pinwheel is just a way of life when it doesn't have to be. And for every data architect in any organization, if you made your mission to take complexity out of your data layer, to take that pinwheel out of your data layer, you would automatically reduce cost. That is the non-intuitive nature of the data strategy. And we are very excited in the companies that we worked with, be it IEX, which is changing the way information is provided to financial investors, and how is that not the domain of just the large banks? Or Go Guardian, one of my favorite companies, which not only keeps my children safe, but thousands of kids safe. Thorn, which again prevents child trafficking, by using data. We are also exploring and working with organizations where we can use data to promote and solve the age-old seminal challenge of diversity. So data and access to data should not be the privilege, and access to fast data should not be the privilege of multi-billion-dollar organizations or only the Fortune 100, 500, or 2000. Fast data is a civil right now, and that's what we are here to provide.
Fast data as a civil right. Well, Raj, I know how important culture and diversity is to you personally. I've worked with you for many years, and something that we're going to be actually digging into later on during the agenda, where we're going to be talking with some folks about exactly what you're doing. And it's not just about ticking boxes and hiring folks that match certain things. What MemSQL wants to do, sorry, SingleStore, got to get that in my head, wants to do to enable nonprofits, for example, to be able to use that data to understand diversity, identify what services are needed in certain communities, for example. I know that's something that is very personally important to you, and I think it's a great part of the agenda that we have coming up.
No, thank you. Yes, I think this is when we had our think tank meetings around SingleStore and what we wanted it to stand for. We were extremely clear, and it's just not me. I think the team was extremely clear that if SingleStore in its future just became the simplest, most innovative technology to provide fast data, as I said, as a almost a civil right, that by itself would only be a part of our success. If we went on to have a stellar, investor returns, etc., that'd be very good, would be much appreciated, but only part our success. And I think in the absence of being a good um, a company that promotes social issues and causes and does not remain silent and hide behind the garb of we don't want to get political. We want to demonstrate courage when it comes to right versus wrong. We want to, not only promote but embrace diversity and equality, not because we have to, because it makes us better. We want to set the tone for what organizations should do and what they should stand for going forward. Yeah, it's extremely, extremely, extremely important to us. And I would just say that without this, nothing would be worthwhile.
And I got to say, I cover a lot of technology companies for many years now, and what SingleStore is doing for diversity and inclusion is really something I haven't seen to a level companies do. So I want to congratulate you on that because it's incredibly important in our community. And I would think if you hadn't had that great new logo behind you, I'm envisioning like the Superman for SingleStore. So Raj, congratulations. I'm proud to announce you officially as the CEO of SingleStore.
Thank you very much, Lisa. I couldn't have asked for a better person to do that. So thank you.
All right. Thanks for Raj's time. We're excited to continue with the rest of our day. Stick around. We have a lot of great content coming up from SingleStore leaders, from partners, analysts, and customers. For Raj Verma, I'm Lisa Martin. We'll be right back.